Welcome, everyone. This is the first episode of the UCL Fintech Society podcast. We're thrilled to have you here, and we're also thrilled to have our very first guest, Joseph Choueifaty from Paris, I believe.
Exactly, yes.
He's the CEO of Goodvest, and I'll hand it over to him to introduce the company.
Yeah, sure. Goodvest is a platform enabling retail investors to invest their savings sustainably. We create portfolios that are aligned with the Paris Agreement, taking into account biodiversity, and that are transparent about their impact on the planet. Because today it's very hard, actually, for individual investors to invest without falling in the trap of greenwashing, which is pretty strong in finance. Today we have a bit more than 10,000 customers that invested more than 100 million euros with us through different investment envelopes. The main investment envelope in France, it's called the life insurance. It's a long-term investment envelope. We also offer retirement plans, and since a few days, also savings accounts. And yes, as you said, we're based in Paris. We're a team of approximately 30 people.
Okay, lovely. And what's your personal background and what led you to starting Goodvest?
I created Goodvest right after my studies. I grew up near Paris. Then I studied in Lausanne in a hospitality business school. Then I followed by a master degree in entrepreneurship at HEC Paris. The goal was to create a business that was impact driven. And so I worked on many different projects. And then the COVID arrived with the numerous lockdowns.
Yeah.
And people were talking more and more about savings because they were accumulating. People couldn't spend their money. And so they had to invest this savings. At the same time, we were talking more and more about ecological transition. So I made a link between the two subjects. And when I was looking for a solution to invest my own savings in a sustainable way, I found that it was actually very hard. You have many ETFs, many funds that are labeled and supposed to be sustainable. But when you look at the top 5 positions of those funds, you are quite often very surprised because you can invest in companies such as Total Energies, our leader of fossil fuels industry, when you think you're investing in a sustainable fund. So it's still very hard for savers to avoid greenwashing. So that's why we created Goodvest to help them with full transparency and a strong scientific methodology to invest sustainably.
I mean, it's very interesting that you started just after university and to take on a sector like fintech, but also sustainability in one go. Those are two of some of the most competitive markets at the moment. And, when you look at competitive markets, it's one of the things that make students so hesitant to start their idea. How did you tackle such a competitive market? How did you kind of overcome the big obstacles of a competitive market?
Yeah, so those markets indeed are very competitive, but actually when you match them, not so much because in France there was really no solution to invest sustainably except crowdfunding, but it's very different. It's answering other needs. It's you will never invest more than 5 or 10% of your assets in crowdfunding. And when you were looking to liquid assets, long-term investment envelopes, actually there was no other player offering this type of solutions. However, B2C and investing is quite crowded, especially since the COVID. But France is not very mature in terms of investments compared to other markets such as USA, UK, or even Germany. And so I think that there was still a lot of space for new wealth tech in order to invest, to help investors to invest sustainably. So it was quite hard to raise funds at the beginning because B2C business no background.
Yeah.
That was quite challenging, but because we were actually answering to real need and the demand for investing sustainably was growing pretty fast. We met we had a lot of customers in a few weeks actually.
Oh wow.
So it helped us to convince investors and to grow the business.
I mean, what were the biggest problems you faced in the early stages, like the really early stages of the businesses? I mean, you mentioned that you started in COVID, and I'm sure that brought along some challenges, maybe some tailwinds. I mean, what were the problems? What were the benefits of COVID? What were the disadvantages?
COVID, it was, I think for our business, it was mainly a good thing. Our competitors had a very, very nice growth during the COVID because people were at home and they had time to invest and savings to invest. It didn't help us on this side because we launched right after the last lockdown, so it was a bit too late to benefit from this growth. But it showed a good direction to the market because online investment platform had a nice growth during the last few years. It was also for us a good time to focus because we were locked at home, so we had nothing else to do than focus on launching our business. So it was quite nice, and it helped us to also grow our pre-registration list. Because people were stuck at home. So it was the lockdowns were I think a good influence for us. The challenges were still very numerous. We had we needed to obtain 2 different licenses to do our activity. So it was a broker in insurance and also a financial advisor.
Okay.
So I had to follow 300 hours of online class and 3 different exams. So it took a lot of time. It wasn't so challenging. What was more challenging, it was to obtain a partnership with an insurer that would be our partner for our first products. And so we managed to convince Generali, which is the third biggest insurer in Europe. It took a lot of time. Insurers are big players, and they take time to take decisions. Actually, so it took approximately 1 year during the time of first discussion and launch of the product, and we did all the other topics at the same time in order not to lose more time. So we obtained the authorizations. We raised some funds. With business angels at first. We developed the platform, grew our pre-registrations list, and 1 year after the ID, we launched our first products actually.
Okay, nice. I mean, you also mentioned, you mentioned you had business angels at the early stages. How did you approach fundraising otherwise? I mean, I know COVID was quite booming in terms of VC investment and valuations were through the roof. How did you kind of navigate that landscape?
So we were not able to convince VC at first because even if investments were booming, the period was pretty scary for investors, I guess. And it was a B2C business. We had no background, no experience. So hard to convince VCs before having the first 100 or 500 customers. So to create the app and launch the business, we raised with the business angels. We managed to contact a few of them on LinkedIn to help. We also used the HEC incubator network. And once you found the first 3-5 business angels, with word of mouth, with asking them for introductions, it's making it much easier to convince others. The key step is to find the the first 5 business angels,
Yeah.
if possible with good names.
Yeah. Of course.
That's our reassuring the next business angels.
Sure. I mean, you're still in the early stages, I guess, but I mean, you've got now 100 million AUM, right? Is that euros?
Yeah.
That's incredibly impressive for a company which has only been around for a handful of years. Where do you see the business going in the next 5 years as both fintech and sustainability become even more important in society? Are you looking to expand, internationally, globally?
So French market is already very, very deep in terms of savings. It's 6,000 billion euros
Oh, wow.
AUM. So 100 million AUM is a lot.
Yeah, but
very, 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 very small compared to the size of the market. So we have a room to develop a lot in France.
Yeah.
I think as you've said, investing in VC has changed a lot in the few last years. Investors are looking way more for profitability.
Yeah.
And so I think our key step will be to reach profitability in France, or being very strong, very, very near to be profitable in France before launching another market, because it's launching another market is very, very expensive. It's making you burn a lot of money, a lot of cash, and that's sometimes the cause of failure of big fintechs or insurtechs, actually, to go too fast and launch too many markets at the same time.
Yeah.
So we need first to be profitable in France. I think we won't look to launch another market before having at least 500 million euros in assets under management.
Okay.
So multiplied by 5 AUM. That can actually go pretty fast, because we have 2 ways of growing today. We have, of course, attracting new customers.
Yeah.
But another very strong way of growing is making our current investors invest more. And that's happening already a lot, because 80% of our customer base have a monthly automated deposit. We are attracting also a new generation of investors that are in the process of building their wealth.
Yeah.
And so if they start investing with us with only 5,000 euros, 1, 2, or 3 years later, they can have actually 20,000 on our platform.
Yeah.
So that's a way of growing also pretty fast.
How do you plan on increasing your customer base and also getting your current customers to invest more money? Is there like a marketing strategy in place? How do you go about that?
Yeah, we have many different strategies for that. There is first the product strategy.
Yeah. By
offering more products, more investment opportunities in different asset classes, we can attract more customers, because we answer to more demands and more needs. And offering new opportunities is helping us to upsell and cross-sell our current customer base. So that's one way. Of course, marketing is another way, and we're doing it since the beginning. And then we've got the partnership part, because we're launching a lot of partnerships with independent financial advisors, family offices, neobanks, other fintechs that are helping us to touch more leads and more customers, basically.
Yeah, I guess this is more on a business side, but especially for young entrepreneurs who are trying to build a team to, build a startup like you've done. How do you find the best partners? How do you find the best team? And is there any advice that you can give students who are in that position at the moment? They've got a great idea and they don't know who to do it with.
Yeah, spend a lot of time on hiring and on meeting new people and on working with them, because I think that's the most important parameter of success of business, having the right team, the right talents. And so you should allocate a very, very large part of your time. I think you never spend too much time on hiring.
Yeah.
That's painful. That's a part of the job that you may not like.
Yeah.
But you have to find a good way of doing it, so that it's not horrible for you.
Yeah.
So it's maybe spending a lot of time at networking events, organizing on a regular basis coffees with different talents. That's a way of also learning new stuff, also learning what competitors are doing, how they are working internally. And so that's a key parameter, and you should spend a lot of time. And also one other advice, that if you've got a doubt about somebody, just don't do it.
Yeah. And what's like one or two things that you wish you'd known when you'd started from the beginning? Is there anything that you'd change looking back? I mean, you've done pretty well, but for now, I mean, for only 3-4 years of being up, you've done pretty well. But is there anything that you would have changed looking back, using the benefits of hindsight?
It's hard to look back, but I would say maybe yes, spend more time on hiring, on thinking who are the right talents that we need at the moment. One sentence that we say in France is when there is one doubt, there is no doubt. I think that's because each time we had a failure in a hiring, we had a doubt actually. If we look back, so that's really important. I think we knew from the beginning that marketing was important, but we should have looked more into the deep trends and current trends of marketing. Today, spending money on ads is already is almost useless actually. Today we are in a creator and content economy in marketing, so you have to almost create a media when you're doing a business. Work a lot on the personal branding. And so yes, I would say spend a lot of time, spend even more time on acquisition that we did.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the key parts of your business is the sustainability aspect, and there are lots of kids in university now who are very passionate about various social issues, and they want to build a business around some kind of social impact. What's your advice for someone like that, whether it's sustainability, whether it's equality, or any kind of issue that the world's facing now? How would you tackle, using your experience, how would you tackle a business that aims to bring about some kind of social impact?
I think not really differently than another business in terms of business side. Of course, on the impact side, I think you have to use the right data and also spend a lot of energy on avoiding greenwashing and social washing, making sure that the impact you're having is actually good, and that there is no things that are hidden in terms of impact. So I would say that's a good way. Then finding also partners and investors that are aligned with your direction. A lot of impact investors are still looking for profitability and growth. So you have to make sure that's what you're looking for. Because if you don't want to do business, you should maybe create an NGO or a non-profit organization, yes. And if you want to create a business, an impact business that is business driven, that's actually the same criteria than a regular business, but focusing on solving impact, environmental or social issues.
Okay. And I mean, for the listeners who aren't too familiar with the sustainability field, could you explain what greenwashing is actually, and what the issue is? Because I know it's such a huge issue, especially with finance and asset managers. Some of the big asset managers are facing kind of greenwashing allegations. What actually is it?
So greenwashing, or social washing, basically, is selling yourself greener than you really are.
Okay.
So that's not the problem of what you're doing. Basically, that's the problem of the communication you're using to say what you are actually doing. So lots of different players in many industries are greenwashing and social washing are in every industry actually. And of course, they're in finance because finance is funding the economy. So finance is in every industry. Big asset managers and the financial industry had in the last year a lot of pressure about environmental and social issues because they are funding the economy, and the economy basically is responsible for the climate change that we are facing. And it's really hard for them to transform. It's taking a lot of time, and the economy cannot transform in a few days. But communication can change very fast. And so they started to communicate a lot on the positive impact, even if some funds are not at all funding the ecological transition and have on the opposite very negative impacts on the environment. So that's actually the problem that the financial industry is facing. It's a real lack of transparency.
Okay.
This industry is full of opacity.
Yeah.
It's hard for investors to especially for individual investors to know what they are funding at the end. And that's why greenwashing is very strong in this sector.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you at Goodvest then? What are the kind of products that you offer your users to ensure that they're investing solely in green and in sustainability? What are examples of these products?
So basically, in order to avoid greenwashing, we choose to create our own methodology that is based on scientific and on science and on transparency also. So we analyzed a bit more than 8,000 investment funds, or a lot of investment funds, and we are filtering them with a funnel with different filters. The first one is sector exclusions.
Okay.
We're making sure that we completely exclude all fossil fuels, oil, coal, and gas, but also other harmful industries such as tobacco, weapons, adult entertainment, companies violating the Global UN Compact. That's the first filter. So eliminating a lot of funds, even a lot of sustainable funds, because today the majority of sustainable funds are still investing in fossil fuels. Yes, it can be impressive, but that's a reality. So that's the first filter. The second filter is the carbon footprint actually on the three scopes, so direct and indirect emissions. And then it's helping us to build portfolios that are Paris Agreement aligned. So what is Paris Agreement? The goal of the Paris Agreement is to limit the global warming to a maximum of plus 2 degrees compared to the pre-industrial area. Era. So that's the second filter. Then we have a third filter. We are also analyzing the biodiversity impact of those funds, because ecological transition is not only about global warming. It's also about biodiversity. And so we are also analyzing, which is very, very rare actually. In finance. You don't see a lot of funds focusing on biodiversity. So it was quite challenging, and we did not do that for the first day. That's something we added to methodology at the beginning of the year 2024. And then another filter that we added, it's a voting policy actually of the asset managers we are working with, because a way of influencing the companies you're investing in is actually to push them to act faster about ecological transition. And so you can do it actually with the general assemblies that are happening every year. And so we are making sure that the asset managers we're working with have a voting policy that is pro-climate. And so that's the 4 different filters we have. Enabling us to have at the end approximately 100 investment funds left, starting from the 8,000. So that's making a big selection. And then the second step for us is to give full transparency. Because one of the problems of the industry, I said it's opacity. So we developed an impact tab that is enabling individual investors to look at the impact of their own portfolio. What is the carbon footprint? What are the CO2 emissions? What is the impact on biodiversity? How many jobs were created? And they can look that directly on their app pretty easily.
Okay, so you literally make 100,000% sure that everything you're investing in is completely green. And I know there was an issue where there are lots of asset managers who claim that their funds are green or sustainable just because they avoid anything that's bad for the environment. What do you think the importance is of investing in, rather than just avoiding the bad things like the fossil fuels, but actually going that step further and investing in biodiversity and the things that you just mentioned? How important is that? And do you think there's a lack of that in the world right now?
Yes, today actually excluding it's already a big step because as I said, today more than 70% of the sustainable funds are still investing in fossil fuels.
Oh wow!
So if you exclude fossil fuels and you avoid all the brown assets, it's already a good step. Actually.
Yeah.
You've got the low impact actually companies that are not hurting the planet, that are not accelerating the ecological transition. And I think that for individual investors, it's important to have both companies that don't have a negative impact, but that are not accelerating ecological transition, because it's diversification for their portfolio. And it's less risky actually, and to also have a large part of their portfolio that are focusing on accelerating the ecological transition. So I think it's important to have both for individual investors.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And lastly, just if there are students listening to this and they want to set up a business, whether it's fintech, sustainability, or whatever it may be, what is the biggest advice you'd give? I know this is a very general question, but from your experience, what are the main pieces of advice that you'd give someone like myself and the listeners for setting up a big mission like this?
So I would say first step is really to be sure that there is a real opportunity. So find your first customers, even if you don't have a product. Find them, and then when they will tell you, okay, I'm ready to pay for this, you tell them, okay, it's not ready yet. I'm working on it, and I will reach out when it's done, so that you have found your first customers before launching the products. And once you've seen that you've got traction because you've got customers ready to pay for your product or your service, then do it. As fast as possible, and with all the different elements that are necessary for the launch of your business at the same time. So work marketing, tech, find investors all at the same time, and not step by step, because otherwise you're going to spend 3, 4, 5 years before launching your product. So that's my advice.
So how long did it take you from launching your company? How long did it take you to realize that the problem that you're solving is genuine and that people needed the product? Because obviously one of the big killers for startups is that they solve fake problems and they don't find product market fit. How long did it take you to realize, this is a real problem and we're actually genuinely solving it?
Yeah, actually very fast. I would say 2 or 3 months maximum, because when we had the idea, we created a website with pre-registrations, and we managed to obtain several hundred of pre-registrations in a few weeks.
Oh wow!
And so we saw that we were answering actually a real need. Like that.
Okay. Oh, brilliant. Joseph, thank you so much for your time. I mean, your insight has been great. Listeners, it goes without saying that Joseph's platform is unbelievably good. If you're in France, we recommend you to use Goodvest to manage your money and save the environment. Joseph, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. And I guess look out for the next episode, because this was only the first one, and we're looking to release one probably every 2-3 weeks. So we're looking forward to seeing you at the next episode. Thank you very much.